Hi, this is Michael Buckhoff from BetterTOEFLScores.com, and I want to talk about whose and how to use it in a complex sentence. Now, before I do my teaching demonstration of how to use this particular adjective clause connector, let me explain why you want to know how to use it. Now, if you take the TOEFL iBT, you will have to speak and you have to write. And during the speaking and writing sections of the test, you want to demonstrate that you have advanced grammar skills. And having advanced grammar skills means that you're not using only simple type sentences all the time in your writing your speech. That is, you're not just using a sentence with a subject and a verb, and then you have another sentence with a subject and a verb, and so on. You're trying to show the TOEFL iBT human raters on the writing and speaking sections of the TOEFL iBT that you do know how to combine sentences. And by combining these sentences, you're demonstrating to the TOEFL iBT human raters that you have advanced grammar in both your speaking and writing. Therefore, understanding how to use this connector and other connectors like it, it helps you get a higher score on the speaking and writing sections of the test. Whose is an adjective clause connector. There are other types of adjective clause connectors, words like which, words like that, and whom are all adjective clause connectors. Now, whose means possession, and other types of possessive words are like her, his, her, its, and their. Now, it's important to understand that sometimes when you're combining sentences and you want one sentence to become the adjective clause, in some situations you do need to use whose. Let's take a look at some examples. Number one, you have Larry talked to Henry. You have Henry's car was stolen. Now notice you see the possessive apostrophe s there. Now the first step in terms of combining these sentences is to determine that the second sentence here we're going to make the adjective clause. We consider this the support idea in this sentence. So we're going to take Henry's and we're going to replace it by whose. And now it's pretty simple. The next step would be get rid of the period. And there we go. So we would now say Larry talked to Henry whose car was stolen yesterday. Now also, I'm going to throw a comma in here because Henry is the specific name of the person. Therefore, the adjective clause is considered non-restrictive in nature. In other words, it's not really necessary to identify Henry. We know who Henry is even without this information here. So because the adjective clause is non-essential information, I'm using the comma. Now let's take a look at another one. Now this one is a little bit harder. Now in this case we have his, it comes after a preposition. So you have this idea functioning more as in an object position. So the first step would be determine the second sentence. We're going to say that this is going to be the adjective clause. The first sentence here is going to be the independent clause. And secondly, we see his, and his is possession, so we're going to use whose to replace his. Like that. But we're not done yet. Now the next step is whose means Henry. And whose presentation I listened to, we're going to take this idea, we're going to delete it, we're going to put it directly before I. Now the next thing, it's a little bit tricky, is we have to identify whose. What does whose means? Whose refers to Henry, right? It doesn't refer to well here. So now we have to take this idea and we're going to put it directly after Henry. Now let's take a look at it. Henry, whose presentation I listened to at the business meeting, speaks well. So this gives us a second way of using whose, and when whose is more in an object position. Notice when you separate these sentences out, you have Henry speaks well, and then you have his presentation, or I listened to his presentation. Notice how this is actually functioning more as an object, and you have your subject here. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Now be careful. Excuse me. Now, a lot of students are not sure about this, but whose can actually refer to a thing also. We have Henry owns a fancy car. Its value is estimated at more than $50,000. Notice that we don't use the apostrophe there. That would not be correct. And we're certainly not going to do this. We're not going to say its value is. That means it is value is, and you have two verbs in the independent clause. I don't think so. So you need possessive. This is a possessive adjective here. So its value is estimated at more than $50,000. So the next step is going back here. Whose means possession, and whose has the same meaning as his, her, its, their, our, and so on. We're going to replace this with whose. So then we're going to combine them together. Notice this: Henry owns a fancy car whose value is estimated at more than $50,000. So in this case, I'm not using a comma after car. I did use a comma in both cases after Henry, but I think in this case, the car is not very specific. I don't say Corvette, I don't say Ferrari, I'm not saying a Mercedes-Benz or something. I'm just simply saying a fancy car. So the adjective clause, whose value is estimated at more than $50,000, I think this adjective clause is necessary to identify this particular noun. So the adjective clause here is considered restrictive in nature or essential in meaning. That's why that I did not use any commas. Now let's move down to practice exercises. How about this? 3 of them. Bring this down to the next line. Okay. I want you to look at these 3 sentences. It says, combine each sentence using the second sentence as an adjective clause. Mary is a teacher. You found her book. 2. The woman called her friend. The woman's boyfriend just broke up with her. And city authorities tried to repair the dam. Its walls had been weakened by an earthquake. Pause the video now to begin practicing. Okay, here's your correct answers. Number 1, Mary, whose book you found, is a teacher. Number 2, the woman, whose boyfriend just broke up with her, called the police. Notice no commas at all. Number 3, city authorities tried to repair the dam, whose walls had been weakened by an earthquake. How'd you do?